Hey guys, coming back for the season premiere of Bates Motel, Season 4, Episode 1, A Danger to Himself and Others, and I was really looking forward to this premiere. You guys know I really loved last year's finale. I really felt was a step in the right direction, and it really seemed like this season is going to be crazy. I mean, all the promos are insane. You really see that Norman's going to get more into that mother personality, which is creepy as hell, but definitely the right direction for the show to move in, and overall, I will say, I don't think this was the strongest premiere of the show, but it was a very good setup. That being said, that's all this episode really was. It was a good setup. There were some really great scenes in this episode, don't get me wrong, but I really think this was a good setup to what the rest of the season is going to be. But I did really enjoy this episode overall. There were some really great scenes here, and I really like the way that this episode was done. But let's just get into this episode because I really did love it. And the way they started, I think was a great way of showing us where we left off. Because if you remember, Romero killed Bob Paris. He killed Bob Paris, and this was like his, he's now become a corrupted cop, and he disposed of Bob Paris's body in a hole in the boat. He lets it flood with water. He gets off the boat into a rowboat, rows away from the scene, watching the boat sink, and throws a phone into the water, probably to live off the grid. That's what I thought he was going to do. That Romero was going to live off the grid, and he was going to get away from all this. But we know that he does have a thing for Norma. We know there's definitely something going on with them. But you can tell in this episode, definitely they're starting to get closer. You can just tell. So, very interesting way he started the episode, and you can tell that he's kind of abandoning, I think, himself as a cop. I don't really know exactly what Romero is doing. Throwing the phone to the water, I don't really know, but very interesting stuff there. So, then we see Norman. He awakens in the middle of the field, dirty and covered in blood, and a farmer discovers him, and he's arguing with Mother, even though no one is actually there. It's a really creepy scene. I really think Freddie Highmore really pulled it off very well. I mean, just the way that he was arguing with himself, pretending that Norma was there and she really wasn't. I mean, we could tell since last season something is up with Norman, and there's something that it's not going to go away. He has this connection to Norma that isn't going to go away even if she's not really there, and it's crazy, and it's getting worse and worse. And I've said it before with this show, it's only going to get worse. It's never going to get better. It's only going to get worse, because this, of course, is a prelude to Psycho, and he attempts to help him, but Norman's in such a bad state that the farmer has to hit him and knocks him out, because Norman's just gone. Norman is not here right now. He's gone, and the farmer had to knock him out. So, at home, Norma, meanwhile, is beside herself trying to find Norman while Dylan is hanging missing posters around town, and you can tell that she's worried sick, obviously. She has no idea where her son is, and remember, the last time she saw him, him and Bradley were leaving because I believe that she was moving, and they were cleaning out stuff, looking at things, she doesn't know where he's been since then. So, Emma's being prepped for surgery at the hospital in Portland. The doctor reassures her that everything's going to be okay. If you remember, Dylan finally got her the money for that surgery, which was awesome, and when Romero gets home, he hides Bob's money under some bricks by his fireplace. Norman has been taken, basically, he hides Bob's money under some bricks by his fireplace because no one will go looking for it if he just hides it. So, very interesting the way he did that. Norman, meanwhile, has been taken to a psychiatric ward and is strapped to a gurney. A nurse tells him where he was found. He says that he wants his mother. Now, when he says mother, I don't think he's talking about Norma. I think he's talking about the mother personality that's going on in his head that he thinks is constantly there, because it's only getting worse and worse, and it's very interesting to see the way that's playing out. So, Norman and Dylan receive a call from the farmer who found Norman and learned that Norman's in a psychiatric hospital. Dylan says he wants to go to the hospital in Portland to see Emma, and Norma realizes that the two of them are a couple, so she heads to the psychiatric hospital alone. And I like that these two got together. Like I talked about in the finale, I'm happy that Emma and Dylan are together, away from Norman, and I do feel that things are going to get bad for them, but I like that they're at least trying to distance himself from Norman. Dylan knows that there's a lot of shit going on with Norman that he really just doesn't want to deal with. He wants to be with Emma, he wants her to get the surgery, and he wants her to be okay. And if she's with Norman, she's not going to be okay. If she's with Dylan, who really does care about her, she will be okay, and I like the way they're handling that. So when she arrives, she's refused access to Norman, being told he's under 48-hour evaluation, and meets with the doctor who's concerned that Norman might be dangerous. However, Norma defends her son, and the doctor tells her that since Norman's 18, she has no legal rights to override them and could be seen as negligent, as she never got her son the help that he needed. And it's a great scene. I love the way that this scene was done here. With Norma, basically, I love the way that they did this scene here, how, she talks about, everything that she did and that she didn't think he needed this help and everything. It's a really effective scene because it's true. I mean, Norma's always known that something's been going on with Norman, but she never really did anything, and finally she's admitting that she should have done something, and I love the way that they handled that scene. Very good stuff. Vera Farmiga, as usual, killed it. Probably the highlight of the episode for me was this scene. I love the way this was done. Vera Farmiga really sold it, and you can tell this is a desperate mother. She knows that her son is very damaged and that he's very dangerous, and she wants him to get better. The problem is it's too late. She's denied him all this help, and she's told him you don't need it. All these doctors and things like that. She says, oh, no, 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 he doesn't need that. He just needs me, things like that. She's now realizing that he does need this at the worst possible time, and she can't really do anything about it, which sucks because obviously she does want to help him, but unfortunately she can't really do anything. So she's kind of shit out of luck at this point, which I really do feel bad for Norma because of that. So Norma leaves the psychiatric hospital, goes to see Romero in the hope that he can somehow help since he's the sheriff, but he tells her he can't really do anything in this situation. And I think it's pretty clear that Romero's gonna not be the sheriff as much because now he's committed this one act and it's really gonna get to him. We'll have to see what happens with that though. So she decides to visit Pine View Institute and meets Vicky Monroe, but things aren't so simple when she learns there's a long waiting list and she needs a doctor's diagnosis. And as she's leaving, she meets a doctor who's arriving, and she tries to convince him to see Norman, saying she's scared he will be committed to a psychiatric ward. And the doctor introduces himself as Greg Edwards and gives her his card. And basically, she's determined. She's gonna do whatever she can to get Norman out of there. So Dylan shows up at the hospital in Portland, waits with Emma's dad for news about her. Later, when Dylan's sitting alone, a woman passed him, asks for the receptionist for Emma, saying that she's her mother. And this was very interesting. We meet Emma's mother in this episode. And remember, her mother's been away. We haven't seen her in a very long time. She sits down opposite Dylan, and when Will returns with coffee, he's none too pleased to see his former wife, tells her to leave, and they receive news that Emma is just suddenly out of surgery very quickly, which was very interesting that she was just very quickly out of surgery like that. I don't know exactly how that works, but she got out very quickly, and yeah, very interesting situation there. So Norma returns to the hospital to learn that Norman had another psychotic episode, picturing himself as a child, spending time with Norma before the incident with Bradley the night before with Mother. And the doctor tells Norma that Norman's being released, but tells Norma that she can't ignore getting care for him. If she doesn't, social services will be involved, and Norma will return to the psychiatric ward, and she needs to do something. She can't keep denying him the help that he needs, because there's definitely something going on. The doctors want to help him, but I feel like Norma thinks that there's really nothing she can do, and she kind of is starting to understand that. So that evening, we see Norma cuts Norman's hair. She breaks news to him that he needs to see a doctor, and he makes her promise that she won't send him away. And you can sort of tell that Norman's starting to control her, and it's kind of something that she can't stop, even if she wants to. Norman's going to continue to control her no matter what happens, and there's really nothing that she can do about it. And it's really crazy to see. I mean, Freddie Highmore, I think, is really doing a great job with it, but it's really crazy that he's just, doing pretty much whatever he can, to control her and get what he wants, because it's clear that this is what Norman wants. Although this is not the same Norman Bates. I mean, clearly he's very much being influenced by the mother persona. Definitely that's what's going on as well, but it's very interesting. And then there's this very interesting thing where he says he had a dream that she killed Bradley, which of course it did actually happen. The thing is that she did not kill Bradley. That was all Norman. Norman killed Bradley, but he doesn't think he did because the mother persona was there. And of course Norma's telling him, oh, that's not true, but she doesn't know that Bradley was actually murdered, and that's what's crazy about all this, that she doesn't actually know what happened here, and it's really crazy to see. So Audrey books a room at the motel, says that she has met Emma before. However, the next morning she learns that Audrey's actually Emma's mother, and she later shows up at the house with a note for Emma, but Norma refuses to take it, orders Audrey to pack her bags and just leave. She wants her to stay away from Norman at all costs, and she wants nothing to do with Audrey. I mean, she just showed up, and it's clear that Audrey just wants to spend some time with Emma, but Norma doesn't want her there, and it's understandable. I mean, they've made this life for her, she's been so close to Emma, and Audrey is just randomly showing up, and now's not the time for that. So And of course, Norman being there as well. I think Norma in general is getting kind of scared of Norman. So the following morning, Norma awakens with Norman in the bed beside her, sneaks out of the room to phone Romero because this is not good. Obviously, he can't keep sleeping with her. And we know that in season 3, this was like the main thing, that he kept sleeping in her bed. And she sneaks out of the room to phone Romero, asking if she can go over to his house and talk. And as she leaves, Audrey appears out of her motel window. Dylan goes to see Emma, who wakes up, and he tells her that she looks great, which makes her smile. And it's a nice scene. I like the way that these two are bonding. I like, again, that they're trying to get away from Norman. It's just a good thing to do. I like seeing that. So at the Bates house, Norman awakens to find that Norma has locked him in her room, and I don't blame Norma for doing this. She really didn't know what to do. I mean, Norman is in a very bad state, and Norma has no idea how to control him at this point. She basically just needs to lock him in his room, because that's the only way to neutralize him, pretty much. He frankly banging on the door before bursting through another one that leads to his room. He then dressed himself in a robe and sits at her dressing table, morphing into Mother, and it's a very disturbing scene. It's very reminiscent of Psycho and things like that, and you know, remembering how he was in that, very much like that. And when Norma arrives at Romero's house, she attempts to coax him into marrying her since he has insurance, and she doesn't, but he turns her down, unfortunately. Probably because now's just not the time. I mean, Norma can tell that something's going on with Romero, and Romero obviously is going to try to hide the fact that he killed Bob Paris, because that just complicates things for her, and he knows that she doesn't want that right now, but he's got to confess to her. It's that simple. He's not confessing now, but he's got to tell her straight out, look, I murdered Bob Paris, and if he really loves her, he needs to tell her the truth. So unfortunately, that doesn't work either, and everything that Norma seems to be doing isn't working. What I do like is her and Romero getting closer, because we know that the way that Norman's gonna die is that she's gonna end up falling in love with someone more than Norman, and that's how Norman's gonna get jealous. You can already tell that Norma is trying to distance herself from Norman, even though Norman has this attraction to her, you know, has this, you know, attachment to her and won't get away from her. She's basically doing whatever she can to distance herself from him because she's terrified of her son, which obviously I don't blame her for, and she's realizing there's really nothing she can do about it. I mean, he's refusing help, and obviously she could always bring him to the doctor, but he's completely refusing. There's really nothing she can do, and she really doesn't know what to do here, which I don't blame her for. So then we get to the end of the episode, which was, again, very reminiscent of Psycho. Audrey calls up to the house in the hope of talking to Norman, and Mother answers the door. Not Norman, the Mother personality, inviting her in for some tea. She explains that she left Emma and her father as Will was abusive and just wanted Emma to understand why she left, and that's a valid reason. I mean, we know that Will was a very bad father, and that she just wanted to explain to Emma what was going on, and asking if the teddy bear and the letters she has could be given to her. However, Mother becomes enraged about her abandoning her child, strangles her to death with her scarf, and that's how the episode ends. So you can tell that Norman is completely embracing this Mother personality. He's not holding back, and he's going to do whatever he can to, you know, if anyone tries to come after him or anything, he's going to take his revenge. You can tell that that's what he wants to do, and it's really crazy to see. With that being said, though, really great premiere, but like I said, it really was just a setup. That's why it wasn't amazing for me. This was a very good way to start the season, definitely. This is going to be a really amazing season. This episode in general, I really felt was just a good way to start things out. It wasn't an amazing premiere. I thought it was a very good premiere, though. I really did enjoy it. I do like the way they're handling this whole Norma situation, because she's realizing there's really nothing she can do. Even though she wanted something to do, there's really nothing she can do here. Also, if you guys don't know, the bunny toy that Audrey had is actually a reference to the bunny toy that appears in Norman's room in Psycho, which that's terrifying to think about. I mean, just the fact that he strangled this woman, and that she had this teddy bear, and it was the same teddy bear from Psycho, and he keeps this teddy bear, is crazy to think about. But of course, this isn't Norman. This is the Mother persona that is slowly taking over him, and pretty soon he'll be completely gone. And we can definitely tell that, you know, Norma is getting closer to Romero and trying to distance herself from Norman, and he's obviously going to get jealous of that, because, you know, she wants nothing to do with him. She wants to get away from her son, and it's crazy to see. She just can't really help her son right now. And even though she wants to get him that help, he's refusing it. There's really nothing she can do, obviously. If he's going to refuse her help, there's nothing she can do about that. Even if she wants to, there's nothing she can do, unfortunately. which sucks because you can tell she genuinely does want to help him. I don't think this is a situation where she doesn't want to help her son. I feel like she genuinely wants to help him. She just doesn't know what to do here because she's so, he's so gone, he's too far gone, and she has no idea where to move on from here, which again, I don't really blame her for. I can totally understand why she's thinking that. But very interesting stuff there. I really like the way that they're handling that whole thing. And the thing with Romero needs to confess to Norma what he did because I mean, sooner or later she's going to find out that there's something going on. I mean, the fact that he refused marriage, things like that, yeah, it was quick, but I feel like if the situation would have been different, he honestly would have agreed to it, but because of what happened with Bob Paris and everything, that's what he's focused on, and that's why he can't help Norma, because he's very regretful of what he did, he's very guilty, and obviously he murdered Bob Paris, and he feels terrible about it, and he doesn't want to admit to Norma what he did, which is very interesting. I understand Audrey's situation, I really do. I think it's too bad they killed her off because, it could have been interesting to see Emma and her mother bond. We didn't really see any scenes with them, though. That's my thing with this episode, is that Audrey wasn't really a totally fleshed out character because we didn't see a single scene with her and Emma bonding, and I really would have wanted to see that. Unfortunately, Norman had to kill her, which sucks because I really wanted to see more of, Audrey and Emma bonding, but it's clear that Emma and Dylan are getting closer, which I do like seeing. I can understand why Dylan's trying to distance himself from Norman, and it's definitely a better plot than the whole situation going on with, like, Caleb and Chick and that whole thing. We're definitely going to get back into that, which I'm happy about, because I do like those characters. Caleb's not a main character this season, but we are going to see them, as the season goes on. But overall, guys, that's really what I have to say about this episode. Not too much to say about. Like I said, it really was just a good setup. I really like the way they set things up. I'm definitely interested in seeing how the rest of the season's going to play out. I think we're really in for a crazy season. Just from this episode alone, you can tell things are going to get crazy, and I am all for it. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. I will see you guys in my next show, which will be for Better Call Saul, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.